Hello, and welcome to Jarviskjir Mind Over Matter, Chapter 2! Which at least stops us from getting into the crazy high digits when it comes to the week. And some new person trolls by and is like, oh, there's a new D&D show, what episode is on? Oh, episode 60? Next.
It works for Critical Role.
Critical Role has got to a point where it's now so far in the other direction.
140.
Yeah. They're about to finish up season 2. And people are mad about it.
Good for them. How dare you conclude a story?
What, right? And they're not going to conclude it because they're going to keep doing like comics and stuff with those characters. So it's going to be fine. It's going to be Star Wars. It's going to be Star Wars, and you're going to love it. And what is also going to be Star Wars is the continued Jarviskjir universe. Here now with Mind Over Matter Chapter 2. I would love to say we're all happy and excited to be here, but we're all sleepy. For different reasons, all each. So we're just gonna start trucking into it. Any of you have anything to say while I take a swig of coffee?
Yeah, you should change it to Enchantment 2 because we're now in Chapter 2.
That's
I don't think there's an easy way to do that in Roll20. Yeah.
You'd have to move it to.
I'd have to move it. Oh, that's a good idea, though.
Rough.
Maybe I'll remember that next time. So, shall I recap what happened last time? And maybe I guess like a recap of Chapter 1 in general, right? At the start of a new chapter. Okay.
Yeah, don't just focus on our failure. It will set us up to more failure.
I'm a DM. I have to focus on your failure. That's the social contract of why I'm here.
We did pretty well.
You did well. You did well. That's why the campaign is continuing and didn't just end. So, to recap Mind Over Matter Chapter 1 briefly, you were a group of differing individuals gathered together by Orksua, essentially the leader of the Ebamari, the brain-eating, psychically active race that's actually more interested in peace than war, because the Underrealm and the Treaty of the Deep, the continued basically treaty of all the major cultures and races down there, have started full-fledged war with the surface world. And the Ebamari kind of aren't really into that, and they wanted you guys to really kind of champion peace, but while also taking care of Orkshua's affairs. In this, you've had people come, you've had people go, and right now it's you three. Your main kind of focus was the disappearance of Spiderkin, a bunch of spider people from under the usurper elf city of Narashiro. You discovered that they'd been taken away by the Mad Priestess, the once shogun of the city, who had been given a terrible metamorphosis into a Drider. Whether or not that was created by Ocean's god Ivrith, and how they're both similar and different was of course a lot of the what Ocean was dealing with the whole dang time. Eventually, as Charles managed to get the Mad Priestess's plot from her, that she was to resurrect the Thura Dawneb, the once ruler of Narashiro, who really pushed for the war with the surface. And you did everything in your power to try and stop it, but unfortunately her plan did succeed in some ways. So, Lithura Dawneb is resurrected as a fell lich. The three of you managed to escape with your lives, but damaged, both physically and mentally. While Bogdan started to draft up a plan that if there is something so terrible and powerful as a lich, then you need the support of the Wall of Abanir. Bogdan needs to reclaim the Blackjaw and the throne. Oshun was in such a state that had to be rushed basically to an emergency C-section, and has given birth to the little blessed divine child that she was carrying all this time.
Wah.
Mama. That's what the baby's gonna be like. It's gonna...
No.
Mama.
No.
But we're not gonna start with the C-section, or you guys escaping, or the aftermath. We're gonna be starting on the rooftop of the Fanged Asylum, floating many feet within the caverns of Narashiro. The Mad Priestess's arm falls to the ground, the edge singed and starting to burn. Before her is Lithura Dawneb, her form now complete, created of umbral essence, terrifying, graceful. She glances over to Vosnor, the current Shogun of Narashiro, that you managed to get his aid in trying to fight them. And while you three have escaped...
Not enough yet.
While you three escaped, he's still there fighting. He goes for another strike with his katana, humming with energy, and Lithuro turns her head with a snap, uttering a single word that makes Voss's whole body freeze. Pushes the muscles tense in his armor, but he cannot move at all. Lithura briefly glances to the Mad Priestess in a very different shape to when he last saw her, but then both of them are now. The Mad Priestess looks at her with adoration, and Lithura smiles as much as she can. She steps closer to Voss and will remove his helmet. He's still unable to move, completely paralyzed. And she stares down at him, one of her eyes now just a glassy orb, her essence drained from her, moments after she was formed. Not quite fully there.
Ian knows things.
And she looks down at Nor and says, "Well, things certainly seem different. Illuminate me. Tell me of Narashiro. Tell me of the war." It's around about a month after that. You guys needed recovery time. Despite, perhaps, your fears, there is no fell invasion of Narashiro. There is no panic among the city. Quite disturbingly, once you've had enough of a recovery, the city of Narashiro kind of continues on around you. You have a spot here in the Serpent Church in Narashiro within the snake cult, and they have always kind of taken care of you, but now it's like you guys are really their charge to be taken care of, especially Oshun. Oshun, after birth, needed a lot of taking care of, both mother and baby, and this is exactly what the Serpent Church specializes in, and exactly what Cinnabelle, Oshun's dear friend / lover, is like, no, you're taking a lot of care of Oshun. There is, though, a growing excitement among the church. Oshun was, especially in the last few weeks, been coming and going and had been quite a familiar figure to this fairly small group. And she's had her baby, which is exciting as is. But then, the whispers start. Oshun was divinely pregnant. That child was meant to be a child of Ivrith, in theory, some say. So what is the what is the child? Who is the child? Who is the child going to be? Who is Oshun? What's going to happen to Oshun now? While Oshun wouldn't hear much of this first while she's recovering, for Bogdan and Ashal, who are allowed amongst the Serpent Church as much as they want the little campus, there's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of priestesses whispering, gossiping, and stuff like that. It's excitement. And that excitement is starting to bleed outside of the Serpent Church, but not too much yet. What would be really your guys' intents after, a few weeks of rest? What's the first thing you guys are really wanting to do and start to set up?
As Charles has a couple of things. First order of business is get some more respectable clothes. If Ashal is going to be if Ashal is going to be advisor to Bogdan, they want to
He needs
look
to learn
the
how
part.
to read.
Hey. So Ashal does already have the Cloak of Shadows, which is a nice.
The Cloak of Shadows can pass. Yeah,
but it's over the rags and rope belt and such like. So Ashal definitely wants a more fitting robe.
Okay, that's a great one. Especially because Ashal isn't going with anyone to buy clothing. Ashal is just going to leave one day and come back with fine clothing. So,
Just a cape with horns on the shoulders, and he's like, I liked it.
So it depends what level you want to go at. Any level of clothing is better than what you're wearing. Common clothes is 5 silver. Fine clothes is 15 gold. There is also merchant wear, which is around 5 to 10 gold, which is, high quality clothing, but not to the extent of fine noble wear that you could wear at a fancy event.
I'll go for fine clothing, fine robes, and belt and appropriate,
cool,
etc. So the other things would be in consultation with Bogdan, but the first thing, and Ashal wouldn't expect Bogdan to have any objection to this or any real further input on this one, but it would just make aware just in case Bogdan does. Ashal wants to send a letter to Rakaf explaining in as much detail as possible what happened at the Fanged Asylum. Basically, I'm sorry that we didn't get your spiderkin. Shit is going down. We're sorry that we might have left your friend there. A bit more eloquently than that, but we'll try and impress as much knowledge of what Lefura is now and such like. So, because Ashal is expecting that Rakaf, if Lefura comes back to the city, Rakaf would probably cooperate, at least on the surface, with Lefura, but does want to make Rakaf as aware as possible of what they're dealing with. Probably wouldn't go into... They would probably mention with Bogdan's approval that they intend to go to reclaim the Blackjaw, but wouldn't give any details on that. Unless Jaken has any input on that particular one.
Sorry, I've been thinking about my own stuff.
Fair enough. Basically, is Bogdan okay with description of what happened going to Rakaf and that we intend to go and retake the Blackjaw?
Yeah.
The second one, it might be a little bit more contentious with Bogdan. But Ashal would want to send a further communique to Alkshua,
copy her in.
It's a bit less detail, a lot less detail of the specifics of what happened to Ulksure. It would be more broad strokes, like we investigated the Spiderkin, that led us to the Mad Priestess who was trying to use them in a sacrificial ritual to restore the former Daimao, and succeeded, basically. And would, and again, with Bogdan's approval, say we intend to reclaim. It will probably be a bit circumspect in this letter. Like we intend to reclaim our friend's rightful inheritance, assuming that Ulksure will know what that means, given that she sent Bogdan to us. Will like there is. As Charles is obviously, the Ebimari do not really want a full-on like cataclysmic war with the surface in the same way that Lafura would. So as Charles will be like putting sort of surreptitiously into this letter, like if we can retake the Blackjaw and you obviously control Ebimaro, we have the beginnings of almost a sub-coalition within the Treaty of the Deep against Lafura. Maybe because the gnomes are fairly peaceful as well, we can bring them on board. We have the beginnings of something to work against her. And yeah, Ashal would discuss this quite extensively with Bogdan, what level of detail they want to go into, but would basically sort of long-term thinking beyond reclaiming the Blackjaw. They want some sort of allegiance here. They want allies in a potential threat to the entire underrealm.
Yeah, the whole reason that Bogdan is working for Ulksure is to secure Ulksure as an ally.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So
that's why he's here.
Yeah. I think Adshar would, if Rakaf's people would allow, would actually request that that communique to Ulksure be sent by one of Rakaf's couriers, just out of a matter of like the information in the letter is probably going to get back to Rakaf, but it's not anything that he wouldn't know anyway.
Yeah.
Rakaf's couriers are probably more trustworthy than, I mean, who
it's
knows?
spycraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Rakaf's people, because you wouldn't actually be able to get a solid communication with Rakaf himself. But Rakaf's people would even be able to add the option of essentially giving you a psionic ping when the letter has been opened. Is something they're capable of doing due to Rakaf's kind of voidcraft and stuff. Yeah.
That would be very appreciated. Yeah.
Okay. So those messages can be sent off. Ashal already kind of starting his role as
and
advisor.
One last thing. Would ask Bogdan to start teaching them Dwarvish, so that they can communicate better in Arunar.
I want you guys to role play this interaction because I love this whole bonding session that you guys are having. I imagine it over tea for some reason.
Well, I did sort of have in my head how to go about like explaining this in character.
You buy them flowers.
But yeah.
Cool. I think that's all good. That's all stuff that can be worked out. The letters can be sent, and for now, you're just sort of waiting. Bogdan, what have you been working on, other than, of course, the plan and intent to take back the Blackjaw, but how?
The how is still kind of nebulous, but he has planted the seed of the beginnings of this with Rakat, and so his first priority is to smooth things over with Rakat, because they kind of promised Rakath a bunch of spiderlings who just got sacrificed to the dark Umbral forces. So Bogdan is making good with Rakath as best he can, and then of course waiting for Rakath to give him an opportunity.
Rakath is essentially impossible to communicate to. His intelligence ward is operating and will assist you. but it gets to the point where, and this is something William IRL actually does, where it's like, oh, you can tell from the way that he shuffled around the meetings that he does not. You are not going to talk to him. You're not sure if anything's going on, but regardless, you're still getting the help of the intelligence ward, but Rakaf himself, radio silence.
Bogdan is going to, due to just a necessity, is just going to take an optimistic view of this, being like, he's good.
Yeah.
Rakaf's just busy.
Yeah. As Shal would probably suggest that Rakaf is possibly maintaining distance so he can feign neutrality if required.
Yeah, that and you know, there's this cool lich. I'm sure he's not happy about that. So, you know, we tried so hard.
Would you be going? Would the both of you be going up to the? So Rakaf's intelligence ward is at the top of the city, but it's like on the top, kind of it's like a diagonal ward going sort of that way. But so you would basically be going to the noble district at the top of the city to go see them. Would you guys be doing that in person?
I think as Charles had planned on mainly communicating with letters, but if Bogdan wanted to go, then as Charles would accompany.
I think Bogdan at first would try to meet Rakaf and talk face to face. Hey, it didn't go as planned. Sorry. But when he couldn't get a meeting with Rakaf, he would use couriers and other more subtle means of communication.
Can you give me a perception check, Bogdan? Or
yes.
Investigation, if it's better. I don't know what your stats are.
Actually, I reckon investigation is better.
I think it would be a bit better.
Okay.
12 is okay.
12 is okay.
There is like no panic around the city at all. The city hasn't really changed, which is interesting. At the very least, even the intelligence ward hasn't really changed. When you would visit there a couple of times. It's been a few weeks when you two are sort of organizing what you know. There's like papers on the table. You'd have like a study, right? That both of you have basically been allowed in while you're here. Kind of like a side room from their library. Their library isn't of much interest to Ashal. It's like, well, there's surgical books, which now I think of it, Ashal might have some interest in because there's like an analytics to it.
It's the kind of thing that Ashal would read and find mildly interesting, but if there were other more interesting things, would not read them.
You'd read it for fun, not for a project.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there are those tidbits. There's like surgical textbooks. There's herbalism textbooks, alchemy textbooks, things like that. This is a healing church, and that's where a lot of the focus is on their text. So you'd have like a little side room off the library, which isn't really completely private, but you would realize does have an enchantment to the place, which means that it's soundproof. So there's like there's a smoky window, there's a smoked glass window, but so you know, if you two banged in here, the priestesses in the library would see, but what you're talking about they can't hear.
Sorry, I just zoned in from this discussion about emojis, and I was like,
that was exactly my intent. I wanted Zoe to pay attention because it is probably 3 weeks have gone by, not exactly, but roughly, where Oshun would be wheeled into the room by Cinnabel. Oshun is in a black. It would actually be dark iron, a dark iron wheelchair that is very old, but is big enough for her.
It definitely moves like Robot Wars.
Yeah, it's
8 wheels.
Yeah, it's a little 8 wheels. Maybe there's like a spider pattern in the wheel, so it's just like a spinning spider.
There are
But,
just spiders in the wheel.
well, there might also be spiders in the wheels. It's very old.
It's a hamster wheel, but with spiders.
However the wheelchair takes place, Ocean is wheeled into the room. And Cinnabelle will even kind of like, after you make, your brief introductions or whatever, she will kind of like whisper mutter, kind of to a Charles because he's closest, like, she can walk, but it's a flair for the dramatic.
Bitch!
It's endearing, but, she had to spill it.
As Charles would make the equivalent of a snort under the breath, which is like a bit more moist. Like,
I didn't.
Who's puking more, as Charles or the
two
babies?
tentacles together.
I leave for that one.
The funny thing is I was if you didn't say, I was gonna say the same thing. So we were on the same wavelength there, which is always good.
I'm surrounded.
Now, Ocean, you probably knew that, like, they would have told you that this is the plan, but here you could see the papers on the table and maybe even a map, and stuff like that.
I kind of imagine that it's all like in deep speech, because
as much as you have written, what you have written would be in deep speech. What you've got wouldn't be.
Yeah, true. That's fair. But yeah, you all of the various notes from various different places, various different books, various different writings, and then like as Charles' very scrawly hand, and I don't know how Bogdan's handwriting would be, but
book learned, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I reckon that Bogdan has very formal calligraphy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see the formal calligraphy notes, and then you the chicken scratch.
I assume it's because he writes with his tentacles.
You'd have to lean very low to the desk, or have a standing desk.
Maybe that helps Edmari think. They're leaning into like.
Yeah.
They have terrible posture, but they float, so it doesn't matter.
They do have terrible posture. It's canon.
I imagine when Ocean comes in, a Shaw will say something in deep speech, and then like without even looking at him, Bogdan will say in Dwarvish. Say it in Dwarvish.
Yeah. There's a like a pause and then a very poorly pronounced words.
I was going to say Fasruda, and then I was like, that's the wrong one.
Well,
that's draconic.
That's one of the few magical languages I don't speak.
Just wait until you meet the dragon.
I hope I never meet a dragon. As Charles hopes they never meet a dragon.
If this campaign meets a dragon, you know the types of dragon that hang out down here. Shit pan.
They're just like the hot topic dragons.
You don't know how close to the truth you are. Yeah. What is there anything you all want to sort of discuss as things are, as plans are continuing and Ocean is healthier, and I imagine, Ocean, you have the baby.
The baby. I think Ocean would just say, catch me up to speed. But the thing that's sticking in my head, I was like, how would Ocean hold this child? And I'm pretty sure, like, obviously her legs are away. She looks as normal as you can with a spider face. Specifically a jumping spider face. They're much cuter. I just think she's, like, holding it normal, but the little 4 feet that are like the investigative spider feet near the face are kind of just patting the head, like investigating it. It's just the image that comes to my head.
You may have thought when this baby was born that they were small, red, and angry because they were born premature, and they were. They needed a lot of care, round-the-clock attention from the priestesses. He is still small, red, and angry. He's still a very grumpy-looking baby. Less grumpy when Ocean is, like, tip-tapping on his head. But if Ocean ever stops to, like, talk, the frown just... Not to the point of...
Just a fistful of hair.
Yeah, not to the point of crying, because he's an elven baby and they're very quiet. But, just, like... He's mad. Like you can feel the anger coming off of him. And yeah, as he's kind of essentially grown into his skin.
Eye contact and feety kicks.
His eyes are very rarely open still, because he's still very young. But his skin is still, it's kind of like a fuchsia color. He's kind of a purpley red.
You are the father.
Okay, so you start catching Ocean up with the plan. It'd be while you're doing this, in as much roleplay as you want, that, surprisingly, Ashal, it was only like a week ago you sent that letter to Okshua, but you get a little psionic, not a message, just a feeling. It almost feels like you see a reflection in a mirror in your mind of a letter being opened with one single sharp nail. Which means either that letter traveled very fast or Okshua is closer than Ebamara.
Unexpected staff check-in by the boss.
Ashal would but based on the length of time, would it be logical to assume that she is maybe in Kavanari rather than Ebimaro?
You can give me an intelligence check to work out the exact analytics. I mean, you probably have a map and like it's not a pentagram I'm thinking of. What's this thing you measure angles with?
I know it's
It's the thing. It's not a pentagram. There may be a pentagram on the table because there's an Eldritch Knight and a sorcerer, but
yeah, we don't have paper shredders, so we have a small portal now. And we just
you give it to a scribing demon, you give the math, and then it comes back. One of the main things of complaint about Kavanari from the Usurper Elves is it's very far away from Narashiro. Because Narashiro is quite close to Abanir, but they put it at the south side of Abanir, of the Abanir Kingdom. And so it's very far away. Okshua is on the road to Narashiro, one way or another. Either through Abanir or through the south. Probably through the south. She would usually travel to Kavanari first. So she's coming this way. Seemingly.
Yeah. So like in the middle of sort of, I imagine Bogdan is explaining to Oshun what the plan is.
But I would not explain what the plan is in front of the.
Oh, Cinnabelle wouldn't have blinked.
Yeah, it's just the three of us.
Yeah.
Well, four of us. Four of us.
Yeah, you maybe even say that. And
Ashal would suddenly, like, from being bent over maps, would like go up straight with the ping, and then sort of get out the compass and the protractor. That's the word, the protractor.
Yeah,
and would start using them on the map, and then just look up, and then like because Ashal is also one thing I forgot to mention. Ashal will be practicing with the mind telepathy, with telepathy rather than, and would say sort of group telepathically to her. I believe Okshua may be on the way to the city. She has opened the letter I sent, and that is far faster than it's. Well, it has not reached. It would not have reached Ebimara in this time, at least.
I see. Well, if she's on her way, we still have no need to leave the city. It's likely if she's on her way, we'll meet her. Hopefully, she brings better news than we.
Wait, does this mean that you sent her the letter with the news of what transpired, and she was already on her way?
Yes, it's possible that she was acting in response to the previous communication I believe you sent.
Refresh my memory.
But you sought advice about how to deal with the Mad Priestess and never got a response. I imagine that she set out. It is difficult to say for certain, but I mean,
What's the spider equivalent of? Ugh.
do we wish? I would estimate that she must be about a week out or so, maybe a little bit longer. The couriers would probably move faster than she would. Do we wish to stay in the city for an extra week and wait, or do we hope to meet her on the road? It is difficult to say whether she is taken the route we would normally take through. Well, the other thing is, if we are heading to Abanar, then we could theoretically take the northern pass rather than go via Kavanari, in which case we might miss her entirely.
God, you bloody know that off the top of your head.
He lives there.
Incredible.
There's a map. There's a map right there.
There is a map.
Oh, shit.
Subtly glancing at it while talking.
Mastered it. Great.
I think we should wait for her, yes.
Yes, I am not capable of swift movement currently. I'm much slimmer than I have ever been before in my life, and I feel as though my entire body is supported by my spine alone. I'd much prefer to put on some weight.
One thing
I agree.
Oh, go ahead.
Your health is of concern, but also we simply have nowhere to go at this point.
I still have research that I could do here. I have not yet made a start on looking into this umbral essence I was able to siphon from the abomination as it was being reborn. But that is perhaps a longer term goal. I had not planned on doing that until after reclaiming the Blackjaw. And of course, an extra week of your tutelage would be greatly appreciated. I might be passable in Dwarven by the time we get to the city in that case.
Conjugate your verb.
Kundo. I do. You can start learning the alphabet. I've got the alphabet. The only words I think we have written canonically in Jarviskjir Dwarven are the ones you need, like beard and beer. Like,
You're done.
done.
Sing in the ABC. Done.
So there's actually a cool thing. So this is actually maybe just a cool little bit of lore. The way Dwarven works in that the runes are formed of both the beginning, both the core rune and the breath rune makes a new rune. So basically it's the beginning of the syllable and then the end of it. And each one of those is a letter. So there's a lot of combinations. That concept of breath is a little weird for an Erbamari. But actually once you get used to it, easier because it doesn't actually invoke the vocal cords as much, which are atrophied in Nebamari, which is why talk is difficult for a Shal. So actually speaking Dwarven might eventually become quite comfortable.
That's cool.
Just so you know. Yeah, that's why I have the alphabet, because it's a distinct and interesting thing. Okay. You got a week before Ulxura gets here, probably. What do you guys want to do?
How much? Go ahead.
As Charles said, who knows how long it's going to be before we get back to Narashiro. If I could do some preliminary research because I've got the umbral, the gem with the umbral essence that's stolen from Lefura, I would like to investigate if there is any means of using that against the umbral lit shit is from, because if it's linked in some way, then perhaps you can use it to affect her in some way.
The first thing, before you do any checks, when you take a moment in one of the... there would be like an Arcanist chamber in this church for when they study Medicae magic.
Oh god, is she going to be looking back at me from it?
You take the soul gem. Soul gems from Narashiro are usually like round, kind of opal-like gems. That they are used enough in this city that there is a common practice. You take it out from like a special pouch and put it on the table, and it's moving. It jitters. It jitters. Well, it doesn't seem to be deliberate. It's not like like it's just. Actually, give me an intelligence check, and this will be for your research. So if you want to invest more money,
I have no money. I spent it on the last time.
You spent it on clothes.
I'll take that.
You're worried that the gem might be trying to get back to her after doing some experiments. Actually, luckily, doesn't seem to be the case, which is welcoming. It seems that the gem is essentially overloaded with only a fraction of her energy, maybe 10%, which is a lot. If you think about how a person is, 10% of a person is a lot. You're not sure how that would have been stripped from her, and it's not like it forms a definite... if you broke the gem, you don't know how it would coalesce. But yeah, it's just that because there is very animate energy in the gem, it was a soul being reanimated, the gem has life in it. Unlife. No.
Is anything Ashal does ethical, let's be honest?
No, but it's 10% of a lich's soul, so who even knows what we do with it?
Now I want to try and combine it with the extraplanar entity.
That's actually a great idea. Like, just freaking Infinity Stone it, like into the eye of the thing. Well, actually, you know, with that check, you actually think that there are a lot of things you could do with this. You don't know exactly what happens after death, but based on the ritual, Lithura's soul went somewhere. And her soul is what was resurrected using fell energy. So there is 10% of a soul in here. 10% might be able to be communicated with if you ever needed to.
What? Wait. This isn't the person who was just reresurrected.
Yeah.
What?
But Ashal stole some of her. Because
There's a reason I went for that essence trap. I figured it wouldn't do anything, but I figured maybe I could get something to use against
That's
her.
why Ian was excited at the start.
Yeah, it's in my items. That was what I was putting in earlier.
That's why Ian was excited at the start when I described that she basically has one glass eye and a side of her face as in her lich form is ripped up. Ashal did actually do some pretty significant damage in that moment.
Have a Tamagotchi!
Yeah, he has 2.
Yeah.
But, and also, Ashal being the sorcerer who dabbles with weird magic, yes, I will explain that you may be able to communicate with the arch-villain of this campaign, but not the... But it's unlikely that this can communicate with her. This isn't psionic. And even if it was psionic, even the song can't reach that far. If you were close to the Fanged Asylum, maybe. Maybe she could even see through it. You don't know. But far away, it is a single shard of what Lithura is, which may be able to be communicated with, it may be able to be given form, it may be able to be familiar with magic from her. There's a lot of options. And it may be used against her, for a lot of magic requires a fraction of that person or something with their essence, a bit of hair or, you know, a ribbon they tied around their neck every day, or something. You have a very condensed, very powerful equivalent of that. It would be excellent for scrying. It would be excellent for all that kind of thing. Although it would have to, the spell would have to be cast differently, because if you scry on it, it'd be like, yeah, it's here. the thing in the gem is here. But you know, if you worked around it in interesting ways. So, yeah, there's a lot you can do with this Lithura's shard soul gem you have.
I can't believe you.
Hey, I have decent ideas sometimes.
So, Ashal is studying this terrible thing they have.
Ashal is studying a part of Lefura.
This human rights crime.
I mean, Ashal is a walking human rights crime.
Most sorcerers are.
Yeah.
The warlocks get the bad name, but in my experience, it's the sorcerers you should be worried about.
Yeah. What does that say about me that I've played like more sorcerers than anything else?
You working through something, Ian?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
Why do you think I have so many sorcerers? Each one is for a different thing.
Yeah, it would even be... Ashal wouldn't talk to anyone about this, would they?
No.
Okay.
Not yet, at least.
Bogdan, is there anything you want to kind of focus on? Like a little bit of focused time before Orchestra gets here?
Well, I don't know how many specifics you want to go into, but going through all the information we have on Avenir and people and places, I mean, he's just going to be... He wants to have all of this information like that.
Ready.
You know?
Yeah,
so,
okay.
like, he's just poring over everything. He doesn't want anything to get misplaced in his mind, and he wants to be able to recall all this information at a moment's notice.
What I will just straight give you without any kind of checks, anything else, you know, because bear in mind you're going off research that is in a different city. But Rakath has a lot. I'm just gonna straight up give you like a permanent +1 to your history checks about Avenir. From like this month of study. Just for when needed. Ocean, is there anything you want to kind of do as you're recovering?
Ocean will probably catch Cinnabelle as she's going about her business and just sort of did you inquire about the venue?
Well, I don't see why you can't just do it here. I mean, what would be the point of any other venue?
Well, no, you're
To
right. I suppose
make a face at the other priestesses at the Ivory Church across the hall?
irresponsible to exclude them, I suppose. It is, after all, political. She's going to put her hand on Cinnabelle's arm to, like, just make sure that it's not, you know, misinterpreted as more calculating than, like, also something that they want to do.
Mm-hmm. She nods and is like, love is always political.
Yes. Well, I suppose now is as good a time as any, now that I am out of my extremely comfortable bed and sat on hips that burn like fire. You're invited to our wedding.
Is this to these
Don't
two?
fret. If you want to dress in any kind of way, it's very politicized. So if you want to make a statement, wear your most princely or whatever it is that you were hoping to get, people will see you there. Obviously, I don't have to explain everything to you guys, you already know. Cinnabelle and I love each other very much. However, our positions will always be political, especially now with this bundle of joy. He looks very angry, I suppose, at that moment.
He always looks angry. Yeah, he's just ready. He's ready to go.
Punch. I love it when they touch your face and you're like, stop putting every muscle in your tired, tiny body into pushing my face.
It's like baby rattlesnakes, where if they bite you, they just give you all the venom. All of it.
That's
Yeah, you
something
don't
I
want this
know
baby to
now.
bite you.
In Texas, yeah, you'd rather get bit by an adult rattler than a baby rattler.
That is
That's something we know now.
a good fact to know. That's a good
Same.
trivia. That'll win me a game of Trivial Pursuit one day.
It would probably be in my best interest to grow accustomed to such political events. I will attend in the new finery I purchased for my new role.
Possess! It's literally like the broad shoulder like cloak, but then underneath he just has can dancer legs.
Ashar's cloak is not broad-shouldered. Ashar is an eye. If you, from a character design perspective, there's a head, and then there's. It's like one of those people where when the cloak is all around, it's just like. What's a character like that?
It's Grim from Hollow Knight.
Grim, yeah.
We got to get them those 80s shoulder pads though.
And a wig.
Maybe Orkshaw has a spare.
Sorry, I'm so tired. Anyway, yes.
From
I
my
need
part,
to take a seat at the front.
when is this wedding?
2 days.
Oh. Well, for my part, I'm honored that you invited us.
Of course.
However, I don't think I will be taking that platform to get political at this stage of our plans, but I appreciate the offer.
Understood.
It would be nice to get the lay of the political elite here in Narashiro for future.
That will most certainly be happening.
Oh yes, there will be plenty of political elite now that the rumor that Ocean has given birth has germinated.
Darling, I'm so thin. I look like
All elven women look thin. So.
Well, that being the case, I will attend and learn to, what is the phrase in Elvish? Hobnob with
Darling, never say that again.
With the elite.
That phrase does have quite a different meaning within these walls.
I believe the idiom is rub knees.
Sure. I also imagine that Oshun doesn't look too thin. I'm not going for that creepy Rosemary's Baby look, but like a normal person, but in big proportions.
Yeah,
and she's gotta be thick.
She's still
vampire lady.
Yeah. She's still got a her figure is not still stereotypically elven, despite her scale and size. And there's also probably a pretty gnarly but very clean C-section scar, which, considering Ocean's armor leaves the stomach bare, is pretty visible.
I'll take that.
Which, is in a way a statement.
It's a battle scar.
Yeah.
To survive.
For sure. Right? See, exactly, right? You have the same thought I had about that. So,
make like a smiley face.
That's another odd thing then for Ocean, in contrast to the normal usurper elf mannerisms, because unless I'm correct, they're not appreciative of scars, are they?
Most elves aren't the biggest fan of scars because it's a blemish, and elves are usually blemishless.
Yeah.
Some usurper elves don't. It depends on the scar.
Fair.
It's not
color.
But
like when my appendix came out, it went through it took years before it went my skin color.
This scar is probably still red. It's very visible. At some point we'll draw it. Because no mask no belly.
Yes.
Very different looking. But yeah. So
Broken on. It's happened.
I was just trying to think of what happened next. Ocean, can you give me an insight check?
Me?
Yeah. It eventually is decided that it actually is kind of more logical to have this wedding outside of the Serpent Church and in the cathedral. It would be set up and arranged, and despite you not really knowing that many people, there are a lot of people who are willing to go. And as this is being set up, and Ultra is probably going to arrive either this evening or the next day, you have a realization, Ocean.
Oh shit, I wanted the reception outside.
Insight yourself.
You have a realization when you're hearing the humdrum of the wedding crowd and the clinking of glasses before the wedding proper happens. You hear a word among the crowd a few times. The word is heresy.
That's a Scrabble winner.
There is, you have a realization and a thought that there are already two distinct segments of the faith that worship Ivrith. There's those who worship her as the usurper queen and those who worship her as the serpent goddess. And probably at a time that was considered a heresy, maybe during the Age of Fang, because you're worshipping it in an invalid way, in a different way. You have given birth to a divine child, that is the claim, which makes you quite divine as well. The Ocean Heresy is a phrase that is forming, and people have no strong... People's opinions are forming. It makes a very wise decision that you are leaving the city soon, before those who are strongly against this reported heresy will go out of their way to prove that you and the child are not divine. And maybe to also get away from those who are way too into it. I can't
wait for the kid to come back and start flipping some tables.
Yeah, that's something that's forming. As the rumor grows, and there has been an official statement, but the official statement is Ocean has given birth. The Serpent Church, we have, this has happened. That's like it, But you weren't really, like, you were already a rumor beforehand, right? Because you weren't a proper member of the church. So, just so you know, you're becoming a name that is known either in support or against what has happened. It's not like you have a political statement here, it's just you have had a baby. But,
yeah. I think that, like, I'd have Oshun's, like, the top of her hair pulled back and the rest of it down. Because, like, I really can't imagine what her ears may or may not look like. So I'm like, some of it needs to be down.
It depends whether she has a humanoid skull behind her spider face or a full spider head.
I'm pretty sure she has a full spider head.
Yeah, so she doesn't have ears. She has, like, vibration tubes. Which is an ear, but,
Oh, right. As long as there's no scary owl ear thing going on.
I think, much like frogs, the auditory organs of spiders are more inside than out. It's just like a patch that, if you know, is kind of an ear.
My hearing patches!
I do want to say that if we have 2 days, Bogdan wants to, find a tailor and get a formal wear suitable for a prince.
Yeah. Would you want it? Now here's the question: fine wear, like just 15 gold, or a formal suit of armor?
I mean, you tell me, is armor a form of formal wear common in Avenir?
Almost everywhere, really good quality armor can pass for formal wear because it's real, especially for like paladins and knights. Even
much would it
more
run
so
me
for
to-
something like, well, it depends on the armor, right?
Okay.
It depends on the armor. It would need to be. It would need to be freshly made and tailored and forged for you specifically, right? That's really the crutch. So, what are you wearing and what's your budget?
I got about 100 gold, and I'm currently wearing chainmail.
For 100 gold, you could get a formal suit of chainmail, which also could be a formal suit without the chainmail. The chain is part of the armor, but also, much more unified. Rather than, not that you're wearing a hodgepodge of different things now, but also your armor seems fights. It's got, grime, even though it's clean. This would be fresh and well made and shiny where it's meant to be shiny and dull where it's not meant to be dull, and probably the helmet headband is more defined in a more princely way, right? Maybe even some minor gems and stuff. Yeah, you could get that kind of made for you.
Okay. Done.
Cool. Excelente. So,
Ocean definitely said to Cinnabelle, time to get to work.
Cinnabelle will, at this point you're both in wedding regalia. There is no need to not be seen by the bride. Who cares? But Will just kind of like lower like herself down to you slightly because she's standing very tall on her tail like a Lamia would in a formal company, and was like, "Darling, you do understand that despite all the politicalness of this, if anyone understands the meaning of a wedding, it's I. It's not just some words that we say. Our souls will be bound. And as they are both already enchanted and infused by the power of the goddess, no doubt in the afterlife we will be, given some grand little spidery cottage to relax upon for all eternity. The moment might be frustrating for the politics and the handshaking, and neither of us have family here.
Oh, there we go.
But the eternity will be an eternity, far more pleasant.
Ocean will take Cinnabelle's hand and just sort of like, well, that is a weight off my shoulders. Thank you, Cinnabelle. Of course.
Does Ocean have her spider face out during the wedding, or is there a veil?
Oh, that's a hard decision.
It's a big one.
Because I think she's not wearing things because of the past, but also because she wants to like show her child her face and have like reactions and stuff, and not be like, hello child, here is my mask. Look into the dead porcelain face. So I guess, I mean, I could see a big white veil that comes over the child as well, partially, so that she's like in this little tent with this child. But I'm also like, do I want to make a statement to these people? Probably not, honestly.
You're already making a lot of statements. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the wedding begins and takes place, and there are heavily altered typical wedding vows. For weddings in Narashir are often... I mean, I guess a wedding is already a private affair, but you know what I mean. It's a affair between like two families, but there are no families here. It is a wedding between aspects of the church in many ways. The ceremony takes place. vows are exchanged, and you know, there is not much of a reception, but there's a lot of people there watching, not just Charlotte and
Oshun
Bogdan.
does donuts like at the reception.
Yeah.
Just does some wheelies, like leans back. I'm sorry, ignore me.
The reception is busy, full of people, usurper elves trying to kind of get a lay of the situation and work out allegiances and what's going to be happening in the church. Already, you know, after quite a bit of upset after the frickin' the last Daimao died, there's now yet again another religious upset within the city, but this one is taking more time to stew and brew. Plenty of people will go up and be like, "Oh, you two was so beautiful." Blah blah blah. There's a lot. There's support from people you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Offer her hand, like full formal priestess like behavior once again. I feel like Oshun hasn't actually done for a long time since this campaign.
It's when the hodgepodge, the mass of, I keep wanting to say hodgepodge, the mass of strangers in the wedding start to filter out that you recognize. An unarmored Vosnor is there, with his wife, and the current Daimao, Kato, is in the hallway outside. She watched some.
Oshun's going to, like, surreptitiously as possible, fucking book it to Charl and.
Is Oshun still in a wheelchair? Because you're solid enough to walk. You're not going to need it for too long.
It's been a long time, but I think she would choose a wheelchair over the support of a stick or something. Because if this thing is going on all day, she's not going to take time out from her duties to take care of herself.
It's so you have the chance to rest properly. But by the time you leave the city, you won't need anything like that. Whether you want to take it with you is another option.
How fast would Oshun heal, actually? I suppose I never actually asked that as a...
You are healed.
Okay.
Not,
After 3 weeks.
Lingering pain. Well, it's going to be a month by the time you leave.
I've had very minor abdominal surgery, and after 3 weeks,
Did you have an entire church of priestesses who specialize in healing magic?
See, that's what I didn't consider.
But because it was a physical surgery, yes, there's been a lot of healing time, and it makes sense for Oshun to be wheeling around and resting. And it will probably be uncomfortable on the road for a bit, but bear in mind you're going to be on the road for a while anyway, so it's not like you need to take any. Oshun is not wheelchair or stick bound for the foreseeable future, unless you want to, Oshun really wants to take the actual proper risk to be careful.
In my head.
But it's not like you're running marathons.
Yeah.
We can go that route if you want, it's just that has rules applied to it. Which we'd need to solidify.
If Ogden had the opportunity, he would go up to Voss and be like, "Hey, how's it going? I noticed you're not dead. What's up with that?"
How's it going, dude?
Yeah, Voss will just give you the kind of, he'll give you the up nod. And
I didn't realize Voss was such a bro.
Yeah, he is. He's such a Chad elf. He has a bonus to strength instead of dex. Like, that's like straight up mechanical. He will like glance over the three of you who are in different parts of this wedding venue, and will just say that you all look well.
You as well. We regretted leaving you, but we assumed either you would fare well, or we would. Either way, we expected to hear some news. It's good to see you alive.
He just nods at that. He doesn't say anything back. And you're not sure if it's just elfishness or impoliteness or what.
In that case, Oshun's going to like announce her presence by putting her hand on Bogdan's shoulder and giving it a squeeze. And
You really gotta stoop to do that.
No, well, wheelchair. So Ocean is currently at the right level, so it balances everything out.
Is she stood up?
Well, no, she's in a wheelchair right now. It's just when the adventure continues outside the city, whether Ocean still wants to be in a wheelchair is the question. Because there's no fight happening at the wedding yet, so you don't have to worry about it. But there are really cool, admittedly custom rules for like wheelchair-bound adventurers. So if you're like, no, Ocean is gonna stay that way, we gotta look at it. I don't know off the top of my head.
And I'd like her to, from behind the veil, like. She's sort of like, this sort of shape veil, and just going to have a good old stare at Voss.
You want to give an insight roll to Voss?
Yes,
I was going to say, as Charles is floating over and subtle spelling, enhance ability on wisdom, I was going to cast it on myself. So
okay, so you do an insight with advantage after.
Yeah.
Can I help? Since we're both sussing out Voss, can I help?
Ocean. Yeah, sure.
Ocean. Cool.
I assume you have advantage. Both of you.
Yay!
Advantage as well. Advantage.
I pressed that. Oh, come on, laptop.
Yeah. 22 is good.
I minimized it and it decided.
That is your problem.
Charles' stats are nuts.
No, I'm just getting lucky rolls.
Oh, you're proficient in insight. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And... Yeah!
Oh, good timing. Both 22, so I can say you two both get the exact same read of Voss. Voss is calm. Voss is not...
Voss is totally not possessed.
Voss is in the same calm, meditative... well, not exactly the same calm, meditative state as when he was at his dojo. In fact, Voss seemed more in the same sort of state of when you met him in Kavanari. He is in a diplomat state. Equal to his wife, who is not currently here. His wife is pattering around with some of the other people who are here. Interesting, especially the serpent cult members, rather than the regular church members. But you've seen people be enchanted by darkness, and that he doesn't have any. He doesn't seem different. He doesn't seem different. He doesn't seem spooked by it either. This seems like just regular Voss, business as usual, as far as you can tell.
Oh, she used to say, "Hello, Voss. Very good of you to come to our event. Thank you. How are you feeling?"
He raises like a single eyebrow. We are well. I hope that you are well also. The Mad Priestess didn't set you in this, did she? Like kind of motioning, not motioning, but just looking at the rickety dark iron wheelchair.
No, this is just a holdover from the aftermath.
I know my friend Rofi could make you one that would be much better.
I appreciate it. However, that won't be necessary following this event.
He just nods. He gives a nod to Ashal as well.
Ashal will like
touch this stone.
For what it is worth, I am sorry for what I had to do to you and your operatives. It provided a much-needed opening. Alas, it was one that we could not take advantage of.
I think that you all did the best that you could. We were dealing with something quite beyond what the Underrealm has seen in living memory. And some people within this realm have lived for an awful long time. These are things that my family have more understanding of than most. And as we go on, I believe that things will work out fine in the end. Our goals remain unchanged. And he kind of like turns his head to Kato, who is still hovering in like the like I'm imagining this having like multiple archways that lead to like one of the main cathedral hallways, and she's still like hovering out there with her bodyguard, who, now that you see both Voss and the bodyguard, they look like they could be brothers. They look like nearly identical. Especially with like the same kind of samurai off-duty look. We're reclaiming our destiny. And you don't need to worry. Narashiro is not going to become some realm of darkness. Things will continue as they have been. Progress being made by me, my reclaimers, by Kato, by her loyalists, and by Rakath. And of course my wife's affairs in the diplomacy as well, and my brother-in-law, I suppose.
Ashal will nod. I don't suspect you're going to give me anything more than I can get off that insight roll, but I have spent time studying the Lafura, part of Lafura Soul Gem. Do I get any sense of
You can give an Arcana check, I suppose.
Going on here?
Same soul.
Oh, he's a puppet. Vosnor is saturated in fell energy, but has been all his life.
Yeah,
he is a fell sorcerer. The energy of Lithura is not upon him, at least not from what you can tell.
Okay.
He is Voss, as you met him before. There is no scar, no injuries, mental or physical. He is the same, despite that.
That does make sense.
I must say, I have very few to no regrets in my life, but that day is one of them. May I ask, now or a better time, how was it that you
How the fuck you alive?
resolved the altercation?
He takes a deep breath and puts his hands on his hips. It's like the first time his stance has changed this entire time. How do you think? We have
Yes, we imagine.
the Lithura is alive again. Lithura is now is and always was a being of grand power. She always planned ways to survive after death, and now she has. She wants nothing to do with Narashiro. She wants no harm to our people here. The affair is concluded until a new affair begins.
As you say.
He will, there will be, like, a bit of a pause after that, and then he will nod and excuse himself and head over to his wife.
Oh, she would have done the hand thing and...
Oh, he wouldn't have, he doesn't have the etiquette to kind of do anything like that. He'll just leave.
Or like, priestess,
like a
Blessed be.
little prayer. Yeah, he leaves, goes and gets his wife, and then they soon leave as well.
Ocean's gonna sweep her veil back.
The baby's
and
like,
just like
at the sudden change in lighting.
He's such a little shit.
So you've got a gremlin, is what you've got. Which admittedly
feed
is
him after
every
midnight.
newborn baby, but...
I mean, they're pretty chill. Real talk, they're pretty chill.
This guy's chill,
So
he's
they're
just
hot.
mad.
Yeah.
As Shao will extend telepathy to the other two, and she let him go.
Why?
Well, I cannot say for certain, and I do not doubt that she has designs on the surface. But one thing that did strike me as curious had originally said to me that she needed the time that would be afforded by the destruction of the maps for LoFiJoeToons to be raised. She implied it was like raising a child. That was the impression I got. Perhaps that was a misinterpretation. I wonder if there is something further that they need, if she is not yet at full power. Of course, that might have been counteracted by the amount of energy she took, but it struck me as odd that the Mad Priestess spoke in such a way to me, and then LoFiJoeToons appeared to be restored to full power. I believe there is more to it than perhaps she told me. Either that, or... well, I do not want to think of other possibilities.
Well, what do you suspect? And very quiet. Oh yes, this is telepathic. That's okay.
Well, you know, I might even not
Yeah.
be so used to these conversations, but like, do it quietly when like you're mentally talking.
I think right now, LoFiJoeToons is not our problem. We took our shot and we missed. Now we have other things to attend to.
My question is, would Voss's friends recognize him?
He was with his wife.
What do you mean? Would his friends recognize him? That's what makes them friends?
Shush, shush. Your sass is unfiltered in our own heads, all right? Take it, put it in your pocket.
I'm just confused.
If Rakath, for example, were to see him in his state now, so
He
you're
is
right,
with his wife. If there is anyone who could detect a change, I would imagine it would be her. And I did not get any sense of LoFiJoeToons' magic on him.
If
Yes.
LoFiJoeToons has risen, he has much to do in preparation, same as I. That is why I wish to retake the wall
Yes.
to prepare for the consequences of her coming actions. No doubt he is doing the same.
I must admit that I doubt that LoFiJoeToons has no designs for Narashiro, but at the moment we have time. Perhaps she does need time to fully recover her power. Perhaps there is some limiting factor that we are not aware of. I am not familiar enough with the ways of fell lichers and fell shades. But it may simply be that she sees even a being as such as Vosnor as beneath her, not worth the effort of killing or turning.
Now, what does the baby say? What does the baby say?
I hate them. I hate my brain went there too. I hate it.
Yes!
As
Please
Shao
give this to me.
will like reluctantly like extend the telepathy.
There is from the baby there are just feelings. There is no internal monologue yet.
Feelings!
And the feeling is just The feeling one has in the morning. The feeling one has in the morning when the light is coming in through the window and you roll over to get more sleep. It's that feeling is coming from the baby.
Oh, this is gonna be great. You're gonna be like a godfather. You're gonna be able to see what he sees.
I am not doing this again.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That was genuinely unintentional. Anyway.
I mean, this would definitely be a godchild.
All right, with that, I think this is
The
a great place.
telepathy card.
Yeah, telepathy card. Ashore hovers away, and we can go to break after that. I think.
All chaos goblins in our own heads.
You ever pun so bad you kill the stream?
This is definitely not the first time it's happened. All right, we'll be back in a couple of minutes, and the weddings always make me gassy.
Well, that's good to know before hours. Okay?
No, weddings make me cry. Weddings make me cry. I'm gonna fucking cry at your wedding. Just you wait. I'll be back with the rest of them, the rest of y'all here in a couple of minutes. So see you then. Oh, you get the credits again. Hello. We're back. With the wedding conclude, well, often that is the question. With the wedding concluded, and rings shared, then
She's got one for every leg.
Well, I was thinking when I was getting myself a glass of Diet Coke, and I was thinking, what would they have rings? Would they have like bracelets? Would they have a ring? Would there be any kind of decoration on it? But it's kind of sudden. I think if it was a longer planned thing, like a year, because elves, there probably would be like real fancy rings, but it's probably just like basic.
Probably developing per anniversary or something.
Oh, you get like an extra ring every like decade.
Chains.
Yeah.
Delicate little like spiderweb chains.
Yeah, maybe.
This is how many years we've been married. They're like covered in chains.
Or is it just like a corded ring, and you just add a cord each year?
Mm.
So it starts off just like this one little thread, and then gets fatter.
That's what I was imagining.
But if you're an elf, eventually the ring would be so big. It's like,
which is kind of
it's
the
our
point.
500th year wedding anniversary. Put
Exactly.
on your
That's
ring.
why I was like celebrate every decade, because like what's a year to an elf? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool idea.
That's
I'm
all
feeling
sorted.
it.
You're back at the snake church.
The snatch.
Snurch.
Thanks, I hate it.
I love it.
And sort of doing your affairs when Ulkshua will enter the building.
Ulkshua has entered the building.
Ulkshua has entered the chat. And you would be the first person to tell Ashal, because even though you are not part of the song, there is a palpable psionic presence to those who are who can sense it. And after you can sense that Ashal, there would be a mild rush from some of the attendants in the church because an important guest has arrived without warning.
Oh yeah, Ashal would totally have not told the church.
Yeah, I very much assumed as much. They would. Would you guys go out to meet her in like at one of the main chambers, or would you want her to come to you in like your little cubby in the library side room?
I feel like Oshun's doing her due diligence with the guests.
So you're gonna go out and see her.
I think I don't know about Bogdan, but Ashal kind of wants to stay. Would kind of want to stay in the cubbyhole and like sure, Oshun can lead Ulkshua back in, but Ashal wants to sort of not a bit of a power play, a little bit of a power play.
Yeah. Okay. So Ulkshua's gonna go meet with her. Is Bogdan gonna go as well?
Man, I feel like Ashal has put me on
It
the
is a
spot,
power
man.
play.
Well, you know, it's less like it's more just like
You're just a
It
weirdo
is-
if you're on your own.
it is a power play, but at the same time, it's more like we are a bit more equal now than we were before. Sort of.
Yeah.
power
I
play.
get it. It's real good.
Yeah, I think Bogdan will also wait in the cubby and look busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is beginning to sound a lot like social awkwardness.
Yeah, it's gonna sound like a bit in the office.
Like, yeah, this is a power play.
Oshun, when you go out to meet with Ulkshua,
Will you go get the guest? I don't want to leave.
Ulkshua has entered the building through the same way you usually do, where there's this kind of amphitheater. You've never seen her like moving around as much, and she is floating off the ground like Ashal does. Just to remind you, Ulkshua is an Ebamari, but decidedly different as well. Even for those who are not psionic, when you're close to her, there is just a presence of the song, of her mind. Her cranium has enlarged to the state where her dress has this like bone arch, kind of like cradles the side of her head, and also kind of sometimes flows with psionic power. But then she's a relatively frail-looking woman other than that, but there's a lot of filigree and decoration, some of which is noticeably slightly elven for a visit to the elven lands. There would be a whether it's a staff or a cane, considering she's not actually using it to walk around the floor, I guess it's a staff, but it doesn't look very decorated. It's just like a long dark steel thing with a curve at the end and like an orb. It's not really, it's undecorated compared to her. And you'd be able to see outside there is a carriage with her. She came via a carriage. The carriage is kind of this gilded blue thing. In front of it is a creature that is part mule or pig, but also part squid. It's It's like a beast of burden with a tentacled mouth and a wide set head.
Better for licking you.
Yeah, you gotta get lots of kisses from one of those as a pet.
On top of Charles' head, and he's just like
Well, luckily it's out there, scratching at itself while Ulkshaw enters, and Ulkshaw will give a nod to Ocean, and will kind of, make that sort of invitation to speak into your mind, and will say that I thought it quite befitting to speak in person, but I see that things have escalated since your first letter to me.
Things have escalated most rapidly, you could say. Stop gesturing from the cubby, goddammit!
She makes a... So, Emamari have squid eyes, so they don't really, move when they look at things. But she will kind of, glance her head down. You no longer have the big bump.
I would offer to show the child, but I don't think Emamari are culturally baby people.
They don't... Exactly.
Are they fascinated?
They don't have babies. Yeah. That would actually be the thing that she says, before going to see the others, is my people reproduce quite differently to yours. And I know that yours was a special occurrence. But I do believe that congratulations are in order.
Ocean will incline her head and say, would you like to meet him?
Some of the tentacles shift in curiosity, and she will just... her mental control is very different to Charles. There is just a mental agreement. There is a yeah. Feeling.
Charles is
it's getting better.
For the fact that they're practicing, Charles is still very rough and quite almost violent at times.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah, it's effortless having a mental conversation with Ulkshaw, almost to the point where you have to consciously not say things.
Ocean will move the long veil out of the way and sort of do that thing where you encourage the handshake of the baby. And sometimes they'll take your hand and sometimes they won't.
Ulkshaw will... So Ulkshaw was hovering a good 5 feet above the ground, right? With a long dress that goes all the way down, which makes her look really tall. That's a power play.
That's a power play. How high she can float is based on her intelligence modifier.
Yeah,
I know this because Ashal floats at maximum height as well.
So she will float down. She will lean in close to the little baby with a curious look in her eyes. Her eyes, you're actually close to her, closer than you've ever been before. Ashal's eyes are like a storm, but a storm that's stilled. Ulkshaw's eyes are a storm in a psychic sea that is still moving. Very, not violently, but like a flow or a spinning galaxy or something.
I like.
And she will extend one of the. She has like more tentacles than your typical Evermari, and even some that are kind of like trailing from like the back of her head. But she'll extend one of the main like feeler ones out for the baby, and the baby will just kind of grab it, and she'll. There is like a shiver that goes through her, and she will
make a little handshake movement.
Yeah, and she will eventually bring the tentacle back and be like.
That part where you have to extricate.
Yeah. He is very small.
Yes, he's quite small. And I'm quite large. He's quite red. It's all very interesting.
I'm sure it will be a interesting development how they will grow.
Annabelle will be like, is it mine? I'm sorry, I'm not very funny right now.
Humor is often lost on me. She will like motion in the direction that Ashal and Bogdan are, not being told where they are. Like to get there, you have to go a whole different route because this is a complex old building. But she motions just as the crow flies. Shall we?
Please follow me. Scoot.
Yeah, and she float through the halls. One of the young priestesses who's like helping out in the building is like, oh, like backs up to the wall as like people go past. She looks around the library and then will enter the cubby, having to. But Oshun, if she's walking, has to duck under the door to get in. So she has to definitely duck as well if she's floating.
And
high.
Bogdan will like stand at attention, make sure that he rises from his chair as she enters and look her in the eye.
She'll put up her other hand, the hand that's not holding the staff, which she'll be resting on as if it was a cane now, but like you can tell there's no weight being put on it because she's levitating. It's almost just like a show.
It's for disciplining youths. I get it.
Yeah, well, probably literally. Disciplining bad diplomats get the stick.
What is that joke about old diplomats just like... Wasn't that a Yakuza 7 like joke that they just want to be infant children disciplined by mummy?
That is in Yakuza because I've seen that clip before. And if Resident Evil 8 is anything to go by, everyone
we are all susceptible to Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil 8 saw into my mind and was like, yes.
Speaking of soaring into your mind, Oxtra will extend the psionic flow out more and will offer greetings. And then her tentacles will wrinkle in a smile. So, things have changed. The Lich is risen. Some people are lost. Some people are found. And next you intend to move towards Abanir. And Bogdan, you wish to retake your throne. Correct?
As expected, you have seen the situation perfectly.
I would like to offer you a little bit of guidance while I can.
I'd appreciate that.
Oh, he's
First.
already talking.
Yeah! That's just like another baby in the other room. There's always a baby. There's always a room. First, is there anything else you'd like to illuminate me on the events at the Fanged Asylum? I'm sure you do not wish to dwell too much. But I would like to know as much as possible, as there is a new player on the stage.
There was a sort of meeting between the Lich and the Shogun, and they seem to have parted ways amicably. I don't believe that Narashiro intends to interfere with the Lich.
Or at the very least, not amicably, they at least are not directly, there is at least no direct conflict. I could not detect any interference upon the Shogun, but bear in mind that a Lich of such power is well beyond me.
And the details were most sparse.
That said, a being such as that may well see a being such, even one as powerful as the Shogun, as well beneath them. May well simply have not felt it worth their while to do anything to them.
That would be logical. As one's power increases on a celestial scale, the affairs of the material tend to have less and less contrast. You see the greatest goods and the greatest evils more as grey while you tend to your own affairs. It is something that many of us can go through, and I imagine the Thura Dorneb resurrected would have that even more than when she were alive. I am not surprised that Narashiro's leadership, as it is now, would have no intent in causing trouble with the Lich, not only due to her power, but due to her allegiance in her in life. If she is still enough of herself, she would probably want no harm done to this city, at least now. That may change. She was always egotistical. This treaty she made could have always been burned at a moment's notice if she decided she was done with it, if it were turned against her. I imagine that would all be much the same. She does pose a danger, but perhaps not a current risk, but something that must definitely be... We must keep our mind on her. You are wise to seek out other affairs and to coalesce more power in the hands of those who would seek peace and mindfulness. I think you're making the right decision here.
You knew.
Ooh.
Or at least, when you sent us after the Spiderkin, you may have given us the options, but you at least suspected their connection to the Mad Priestess, and no doubt you suspected the Mad Priestess was still working in some way for LoFiJoeToons.
Damn, and I thought I was the one with the high stats in.
I knew that, as many leaders of the state, LoFiJoeToons Dorneb was very much interested in extending her lifespan beyond mortal means. I believed all those attempts were crushed, but I am not surprised that there was one last trick up her sleeves. But I assure you I did not know where the Spiderkin had gone missing. I did not know the Mad Priestess was alive. I think she is a much more dangerous a threat than LoFiJoeToons, or at least LoFiJoeToons' goals are understandable. She would most likely monologue to you, telling her schemes, as she had to me many times. The Mad Priestess being behind the missing Spiderkin is worrying, and the Spiderkin being lost in such greater numbers is distressing. You know what I wanted here. I wanted them to have a home for themselves and to be part of the treaty.
To do such a thing against the natural process of journeying towards death, and to take the time away from all of the spiderkin, add it to your own, even beyond the extent of the time that you had. I cannot say I couldn't imagine such a thing, but it's just so much more beyond selfish that I can't think of a way to balance the scale.
There is no way to balance the scale. Though beings who commit such actions, they see themselves as the players and everything else a piece on a board.
Is there any reintroduction to society for such people? Is there any rehabilitation for such an illness?
Do they deserve rehabilitation after causing the deaths of 2,000 for their own?
All
That is a good
beings
question.
deserve rehabilitation. It is whether or not they are capable of it. That is the question.
Auction will nod, and she will state, I will be honest with you, for honesty is important in the continued peace. If Lethura Dawnebb in her new umbral form wishes no harm to us, then she cannot be my enemy. For that would extend a great risk to my people, even if she is acting selfishly and impeding the natural process of the soul or the mind. And I think many people would have the same opinion, which is why her plan is so brilliant, if this even was her plan, or if it's just events that have continued to pass. You're right. There is no way to balance the scale, but the scale can be tipped when the moment is right, just like the board can be flipped when the moment is right in a game. Pieces are not in place yet. And it would cause unpredictable destruction.
In some ways, I suppose, there are benefits. The Mad Priestess, as you say, was always... Well, part of our difficulty in dealing with the issue was the Mad Priestess's unpredictability, unreadable nature. I believe she is no longer an independent actor. Not after the dedication to Lethura I saw it within her. As long as Lethura is around, I believe the Mad Priestess is a limb for Lethura. Nothing more. In one way that makes it more predictable, although I cannot begin to fathom how a Umbral Lich thinks, if it has had any impact on Lethura herself and the way she thinks.
I must disagree with you there, simply being that there are so many questions that yet remain with the priestess.
I do not mean to say that her past and what she is are not questions. I merely mean that her actions have now become predictable. We can predict how she will act because we can predict how she will act if we can predict how Lethura will act. Because she will not act outside of that, I do not believe.
It must be wise now to assume that Lethura Dawnebb is, in many ways, a nation unto herself. If her plans are similar to how she would have planned a natural resurrection, it will be quite simple. She will be coalescing power, most likely as much of her old allies as she can, and then will most likely turn her attention surfaceward. That is not an easy thing to do, especially if you are a hungry, hungry lich.
Let's play Hungry Hungry Lich.
And we'll bring down another event on a larger scale, perhaps, than the annihilation of Rangarthorf, or indeed the destruction of the upper portions of this city.
She has a destructive mindset. She would be intending for something quite similar. I imagine she would be planning a doomsday of some sort for the surface. Something far more than the little organized pushes of soldiers than the treaty does so far.
That is why I have escalated my personal timetable and wish to retake the Blackjaw.
Yes, a logical choice. I believe I can grant some assistance in that, not directly, but there is a dwarf by the name of Botov, Binding Break. Botov is many things. A cartographer is key among them. He has traveled the entire Underrealm to understand each culture and their place, as well as the surface. Before he started traveling, he had a deep understanding of his own people, and no allegiance to your current king. I believe he will be able to assist you in organizing the correct way to take the Blackjaw back. And also secure a stable leadership. Taking the throne amongst a wreath of chaos will give no aid to anyone and will only assist Lithura if she decides she's vengeful and wants to end you.
There is a definite chuckle over the mental connection. There is a vague sense of like it's more likely at a Shal than anyone else. But
Where can I find this Botov Binder Break?
Botov has been... It'll either be in Kavanari or in the city itself. I cannot tell you their exact position. They do not work specifically for the treaty. Though they did design an excellent mosaic within the Kavanari's major halls. I would also ask for you a favor. My role in all of this remains the same. The Treaty of the Deep does not include every single culture within our realms. And if Lithura only escalates things. If Lithura does travel to the surface and do her actions, it will be all versus us. And any people who are not part of the treaty will not be included in the protections that we can escalate. There are many people who, if you can encounter them, I would wish for you to push them into organizing and applying to being part of the treaty. On your way to Abanir, I would love... The word love for a mental connection doesn't quite translate right. For you to take a moment to investigate the cult of the Undersun. They are a faction of deep dwarves, and some others, who do not belong within your society. Their own little commune. They have greatly held my interest, for they have held the ire of many others. And any communication that my people have had with them is erratic as of late with all that's gone on. If you are to enter Abanir via Kavanari, you would be able to visit them on your way up. They exist in the south side of that chamber. And I think you would find it quite hard to travel to Abanir via the north right now. I extended my network to those who listen for me in this city. The northern border is shut. The gates are closed. Some kind of disturbance. Perhaps connected to Lithura, I would assume. She was in that direction. Could be a coincidence.
This cult of the Undersun. Of what standing are they with the wall?
They took control of a town that was so far south of the wall that it was irrelevant to reclaim it. I believe it has some minor quarrying affairs and was not deemed worth an exercise in military strength to bring it down, considering the cult is not violent.
So a permitted independence, not treasonous sect.
Permitted, for they do not have the time to take them down, I'm sure. As many churches would do, they would smite those who claim a different opinion. If they had the chance and the time, but I have no doubt that you understand that the military of Abanir is distracted as of yet.
Yes. I'm not...
In other words, currently their influence and strength is not worth the time it would take to remove them.
But if they were members of the treaty, if they could give any benefit or at least a different outlook, they would be protected as their own nation.
I shall visit this cult, but I must assess whether allying myself with heretics would benefit my cause or hinder it. I appreciate your counsel.
Of course, the inner workings of religion is one thing that I cannot contemplate or predict. Do you have any more questions for me about your path?
I am wondering if it is possible to establish a reliable chain of communication between yourself, myself, and our allies here in Narashiro. The methods we have been using have thus far worked, but they are not stable.
Wherever there is an Abamari who is dedicated to my course of diplomacy, I can communicate with you through them with as much privacy as is possible.
Bogdan will kind of like look over at Ashara.
She will just this flowing laughter will pass. It's like, Ashal is not a compatible conduit, and I would not wish him to be. I wish them to be.
There is a like, Ashal has gotten a lot better at not letting emotions leak out over connection, but there's a definite sense of like, it's resentment. It's not specifically at Altshua, it's just resentment generalized at that.
Would it be possible for you to spare an Ebamari with such a connection to travel with us as our courier of sorts?
She thinks. In Kavanari, yes. My mines within Narashiro will be more important now than ever. But in Kavanari, yes. I will reach out to them and have them be ready for you, and I suppose be ready for a journey and a coup of some kind.
That is appreciated. It is important to keep the communication lines open, especially as things will develop rapidly in Abunir once what we set in motion begins.
I will not be able to offer you any aid in the way of soldiers, but perhaps intellect. And of course, my assistance must remain a shadow. Once you are, in control of the Blackjaw, then our motions can be more deliberate. Either towards Lithura, Narashiro, the surface, or the treaty as a whole. As we can see, things are moving with swiftness unnatural to our realm. The situation might
in
be
that
different.
case, inform your agent that they will be under the guise of a follower of Ashar, who, by own admission, is not part of the Ebamaru collective. It'll give a good enough excuse why I carry not one but two Ebamaru at my side. Distance yourself from it.
Would you be able to send someone with the teaching capability or terms of recommendation to assist Ashal's development as a right-hand advisor of sorts?
All of my closest minds, far afield, are extremely talented diplomats in their own right.
Ashal gets a TED talk just like instantaneously.
I am sure they will be able to assist you while acting as your lesser hand. For of course we want you to look as good as possible, Ashal.
I'll need someone to carry the baby clothes.
There is one final request I must make of you, Ulshua. You cannot support me militarily, although I hope that my ascension to the Blackjaw will be as bloodless as possible, though I have no doubt there will be opposition. I am hoping that you could, through subtle, covert means, finance our endeavors in Avenir to whatever point you can accommodate.
That's what you want a banker when you're asking for a loan to do.
You are in luck that we of Ebamaro have little need for the treasures in our vault, bar the occasional arcanist who uses their gold in incantations. Coin is irrelevant to us. So, perhaps some will find its way into the pockets of an advisor to Ashal.
Oh, yo, can I have some diamonds?
You can get some diamonds from Cinnabelle.
Died. Oh, yeah. I'm alright.
I shall not forget this, and I shall repay all debts once I ascend to the Blackjaw.
A globe in peace requires no debt. That is my intent. Peace in the dark at first, and then peace with the surface, if it is possible to get it into their sun-soaked heads. That the creatures who lurk down here only want to live their lives as we do.
I think you might need to begin with getting that into the heads of those down here.
And on that effort, you will have my assistance.
She'll nod and raise back to the full telepathic levitation height. I hope that your minds are clear and that your song sings true of your future endeavors. And Ashal, you're doing much better. And then she'll just turn and drift out of the room. Then a few moments later, the end of her dress does.
Bye.
No, the baby.
Bogner will just turn to Ashral and be like, that went well?
As well as can be. Excellent. One day I will have control over my own path.
You already do, my friend.
Does not feel that way.
You're doing right.
So,
Path is beneath your floating feet.
and that path leads to Kavanari.
Surely you wouldn't begrudge me my wedding night.
Of course not. I take it then you plan to continue to travel with us. Yes.
Absolutely, of course.
What of the child and your wife?
Well, I will take the child with me, and my wife will perform her wifely duties, which is to be in the uniting front. Stop it.
You're gonna get some steamy letters when you're on the road.
Yes, absolutely. I want that.
With like a painting, like a lewd painting.
Holding together the two churches as tight as I can.
It's if you think she does enough innuendo when she's talking, imagine when she writes.
Yes. She's going to represent the house of our Front United.
I have no objection to you traveling with us. You have proven resourceful. But I do have a request.
Oh, Bogdan, that's so sweet.
The request is that you do not reveal the lineage of your child. I do not wish to appear an agent of Narashiro when I am trying to retake my homeland.
Of course, that makes sense.
Then we are agreed.
If anything, Oshun's presence will potentially help balance the appearance.
I am very large.
To have myself and potentially another Ebimari with us, you might be accused of being a puppet of Ebimaro. To have Oshun by your side, an ascended, or at least clearly a unusual and powerful usurper elf, might make it clear that you have your own eclectic allies rather than a single powerful controller.
Most astute.
Yes.
You don't want to feed into the Ebimari conspiracy theory.
Whatever you've heard, that theory is true.
The secret troglodytes running the nations, yes.
Squid people under the ground. Well,
The plan then is to head to Kavanari when you are ready, Oshun, to travel. Meet with our contacts there, including Bartov Binder Break, and then we will head north and find the Cult of the Undersun. And hopefully, Rakath will provide additional avenues for finding allies the further we go north.
yes.
Okay. So. Ocean goes off to enjoy her wedding night, I suppose. The rest of you, plan.
I'm sure she's just going to be talking to.
Now it's an anxious explaining everything to Citadel. Yeah.
No, I think Oshun's just going to be talking about like the priestess and like those feelings because she failed, but she knew she wasn't strong enough. But now she has this newfound anger towards another living being, and this sort of like she has to like balance killing anything that threatens like her or the child, and also like not letting crimes against nature go avenged, but at the same time knowing that something happened to Domina and that thing is linked to their goddess, and she's going to like have to tell Cinnabelle that because obviously they like make plans for the plans for everything, so the very far extremity that they have to consider that may never happen but like is part of the million plans is having to abjugate and abandon their goddess if something terrible has happened because of her. Like, so she's basically just gonna be like, so this is something I have to figure out. Also, we have to uproot everything that we are and also suffer the consequences of being embodiments of this person, this goddess, and do a leg, just do a runner.
You do understand, if that were to pass, and Cinnabelle looks unconcerned as she lounges, that we would have to get divorced.
Oh, but
We are married and bound to each other through Ivrith.
and we would be remarried under
Someone else.
law?
The wall?
The law gives very little
The person in the
protection.
sky.
The law gives very little comfort in what would happen to our eternal souls once our flesh withers from our bones.
Yes.
And on that note, I do like it when you get angry. Your lack of anger... You are everything that our race could be. And is. And your lack of anger before was a misstep. There are things in this world that need changing. And if we were all lounging around enjoying ourselves like many people do in this city, then nothing would get done. I'm happy that you're leaving to getting things done and maybe being a little bit mad about it sometimes, about things and people. I think that's good. I think that's healthy. I think that's right. But you don't let it consume you.
I can get angry sometimes.
Show me angry. Cut to black, cut to
It's gonna
freaking an
get
hour
into
later.
it, but then I was like, probably shouldn't.
There was something else she was going to bring up. Oh, yes, she will bring up that. How many uses left do you have of the ritual bottle?
Didn't? I was dead. I don't.
Yeah,
think I
no, but how
did
many
that.
uses? It's a magic item with charges, so you need to be keeping track of the charges, especially because she can refill them.
Well, you used 2.
You've used 2, so it should be 2 out of 4. She can refill them for you while you are here.
Yes, please.
It's not her who does it. She will decide who is the most fitting priestess. You might even question why she can't refill it with her own blood, and she will say, enough of my blood went into making this, darling. It doesn't do very much to fill it. Priestesses who are loyal to the cause can be let of their blood and refill the communion bottle to its full, becoming magically enhanced via the magic within the bottle. Maybe not. I don't know how Ocean would feel about it, but yeah. But Cinnabelle isn't like worried about you leaving, especially now that you're married. She's just like, yes, good. I'll see you when you're back, and I'll let you know if it's safe.
She is foilable, like, at some point to Narashiro's laws and stuff. Like, she's enough of an outsider to not let everything, like, govern her and stuff, but she's still also like, yes, now that we've allied our houses, you are the head of the house and the face, and you'll perform all of these duties in our name, and la da 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 da.
Oh, really? I'm in charge.
Don't act surprised.
Oh, I just thought that you would be in charge. I'm happy to be in charge. I'm happy to make decisions. I'm happy to take charge.
You know I trust you.
In all seriousness, I'm sure there will be charge it needs taking. I will try to understand and quench some rumors and coax some others.
I have every faith in you. I just know that while we take care of this, I mean, as you know, my thing is the emotional. I'm only calculating through rehearsal and practice. I rely on you for everything else.
You are the emotions. Ashal is the mind. Bogdan is the tactics.
When were they in this marriage?
You're like getting ready to go, and she will say, "And I am the passion. You have faith in me, but I have faith in you, as do increasing numbers of people within this city."
I appreciate that.
Go and be safe with the child.
Yes. I will rely on my friends. I'm not much of a fighter, and I will have to get used to the idea of perhaps becoming more of one.
You need to get angry.
Oh.
Just
She's
remember.
gonna do that.
Yeah, just remember when you need to fight. I think it's really cool when you get angry.
You think I'm cool? You're the one who's cool.
You gain a level.
I could have used a different word, but not in front of the munchkin. She'll press the nose of the press the nose of the baby, where just the face wrinkles in even more.
Reduces.
Like an angry old grapefruit. And we'll wave you off as you get ready on the back of your beetle, and Bogdan and Ashal can as well. And you guys can leave the city and start off on the road towards Kavanari to do some diplomacy, some scheming, and take some thrones. A game of thrones. No. I see. Here's the thing. I could have done like a better reference, but I decided it wasn't worth it, so I would just say the reference instead of thinking of a clever pun. And that's that for today's session. Setting up Chapter 2 of the series, which is kind of cool. I'm actually really excited to do Bogdan's story, because me and Jake, we made this character having no intent to ever deal with it, but being, man, it would be cool if it's not gonna come up. This is a guest character who's gonna show up for like a couple of weeks. This is cool, it won't come up. And now, but it's like, it's pretty exciting. Especially
backbone of the game, the arc.
Which is great. That's how good D&D be. And I'm really looking forward to it. This is super hype. We'll be back next week. Before we go, why don't you all go ahead and do a little talk about yourselves, starting with Jaken. What's up? Tell us about your show.
Well, every Sunday, 6 Central North American time, I have Dire Roll, which is my own role-playing show where we're playing Alternity in our campaign Lost Horizon. We are currently just started our final arc of the campaign. Lots of stuff are happening. Everything's going to get ramped up and get crazy. Everything the characters have been avoiding, it's all going to happen.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. We will not be playing on the 30th. We'll be back on the 6th. And if you guys tune in, it'd be great to have you. And of course, I'd just like to thank Ollie for letting me come on and also giving me the opportunity to play this arc. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Like you said, it's not often you actually get to play like a prince and do this kind of story in D&D. It takes a lot of trust both ways.
Well, it's not often I get to be a player full stop, but to be a player and do all this is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it.
The best way possible. I can't believe you're still here.
Well, it was never the plan.
Same.
But it's good. Someone who is meant to be here, both of them, is Ian and Zoe. Why don't you two go on about what you got? Fusion.
I'm Ian. I'm very
Zoe.
tired.
Yeah,
Even
we
more
had
so-
the 2-hour energy boost, and now it's gone.
I am very much interested in seeing what becomes of this campaign and what happens to Ashal. Which of the many bad magical experiments Ashal is making is going to prove their demise?
I'm very happy with this little story for Ashal, by the way. You know, Ashal has been the hermit sorcerer and kind of legitimizing and like actually really learning is very cool. I like it.
I'm not trying to kill Ashal. If Ashal is a byproduct of Ashal's lust for power, then maybe.
If he dies, he dies.
If you enjoy Yarv D&D, as you have seen on this Wednesday show, there is also a ongoing campaign on Mondays that is available via Ollie's Patreon. That is a podcast only. It is a bit more traditional D&D than this. We're currently
you weren't here last session.
Well, I wasn't there last session.
Let me tell you what the ended the last session with. Party fully agreed to go hunt a dragon. Yeah.
I'm missing for one session out of hundreds.
Right? Yeah. It's always a session where like a main character is missing in that campaign where something crazy happens. And he's like, well, how are you going to explain this? How are you going to explain this to the captain? How are you going to explain this to Ian?
So what I'm hearing is next week is Crabs versus Dragon.
Yeah,
and
potentially.
That, better go listen to the podcast.
Yeah, Ian's character is very deadly, but with no guilt on her hands. It wasn't me, it was the crabs.
They just carry on appearing mysteriously. Crabs everywhere.
They're going to be like a byproduct of a repressed dark part at the back of your character's brain, just coming out as crabs.
I was the villain all along.
The crabs, they control me. I said this the other day where like you open the trench coat and she's just crabs.
It's Calypso from Pirates of the Caribbean, just
Calypso.
melting into crabs.
Calypso.
And then reforming into giant lady.
That was weird.
That's basically Resident Evil 8. Replace crabs with like anything else.
Fair.
You heard it here first, folks. Resident Evil 8 is just the third Pirates of the Caribbean.
What you described basically happened in Resident Evil 8 when I played it yesterday. Like, so...
Which part?
Vampire ladies' daughters. They, like, turn into, like, bugs. Spooky.
Do you have anything to say?
I was thinking about the other big lady. Yeah, sorry, so distracted.
Stop thinking about big ladies and tell us about yourself.
So, more about Yav, content, game, board game geek, learn information about game. Ian,
Ian!
Ollie and I are working on new things.
Yeah.
We're super hype about, super excited. We're machinations, brewing, putting it down.
Yeah, that's the difference. That's the difference. We're thinking about things and actually writing them down for once. But yeah, the best example is that Zoe is the lead writer for Schism. Me and her, we do most of the writing sort of together to you know give you a lot of cool lore, and there's going to be a lot of cool writing projects for Schism and other stuff involved. And Schism is, as ever, really close to coming out. So you should definitely check it out on Board Game Geek. Schism Immolation of Oakenfur will be coming to Kickstarter like before you know it. It'll just be out one day, and I'll just be, you know, we'll start the stream with the intro for the game instead. We're at that kind of point now, and that's really exciting. Schism is a really cool board game that is connected to the Jarviskjir world. You know, it's got the same kind of themes, the same kind of characters, and cool stuff to explore. I talk about a bunch of here on this channel. if you're interested in Jarviskjir, you're interested about a homebrew, when we do homebrew streams, that'll be when you can come to find out. I'm going to be starting a new project creating lore and monsters from the Binding of Isaac series soon. Right now we're doing a lot of story streams instead. I also have a show on Fridays at 11 p.m. BST, which is with Fable Scraps, which is a really cool group of people. Usually when you have a big D&D game, like with big streamers, there's someone where it's like, yeah, the game's fun, but I'm not gonna have a beer with them after work. But you know, that is a group with no misses. It's great. Never happens around the table.
So who's the miss here?
Insulted.
Game's too small. Game's too small. And that's really cool. You should definitely check that out. You should check out Fable Scraps in general. You should follow us here on Twitch and Twitter here. There's VODs on YouTube. If you're already listening to on YouTube, you should check the Discord. There is a lore discussion section where if you have questions or theories or just want to talk about the show in general, that's great. If you're watching on YouTube, you should definitely leave comments. You should be like, I think... Who do you think sexier, Ocean or Cinnabelle? Done. That's your question. Answer that question. Give me the content.
It's supposed to be Ocean. But
You have a spider face.
You made a big, sexy lady, and then I'm like, I'm gonna make an NPC who's a bigger, sexier lady.
But Ocean's
One-upping.
the literal goddess of fertility.
Not yet. This cult, this heresy needs to grow more for that to pop.
No, Ocean, the African
know.
goddess, literally the goddess of fertility in water.
Meanwhile, I'm just trying to figure out what I already have more ideas for what bad magical shenanigans are showing.
I know. I've given Ian a lot of keys to magical shenanigans, and now all you need is a kingdom of resources to go towards them. Ha ha! This campaign's gonna end up being Fable 3 soon. All right.
Wait a minute, that doesn't go well for me. Hang on.
Thanks for being here. We're gonna leave you. This show is supported by Patreon. There's gonna be a little thank you to the patrons. You should really consider helping us out. You get to help make this content. Help me make it. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of mungy to get this going. So thanks to everyone for that, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
So excited for next week.